My role is to be the sustainability lead for National Services Scotland. Now, historically, the environmental element of sustainability was always about the saving energy, the saving water, turning lights on and off. So it was generally focused in the facilities department of organizations. As things have evolved, sustainable development now looks at the wider element of social as well as environmental and the business models. Luckily in Scotland we have the Climate Change Scotland Act, which was passed in 2009, which then also provided another document after that that became the public sector climate change duties. Now that simply asks organizations to do three things. One is to mitigate against climate change, so we have to reduce the emissions of the way we do our business. Two, that we have to behave sustainably, and that's in the way we act and the way we do things. And third is that we have to plan against climate change, so build resilience in the way we do things. Those three things are generally easy to grasp. Good things come in threes. And so the way we look at establishing ourselves in our internal governance board is to everything we do is based around those three things. Fortunately as well, in Scotland as well as in NHS in England, we self-assess using a system that's called the Good Corporate Citizenship Model, and that in itself looks across several areas of the organization. It doesn't just look at facilities and buildings, as traditionally we looked at environmental management, but it also looks at workforce, it looks at procurement, it looks at transport and travel, it looks at community engagement, it looks at models of care, so the clinical and the public health side of things. So my role has grown arms and legs in the sense that it cuts across the entire business, and that's how it links in with human resource management. It needs to be embedded, it needs to be comprehensive, and it needs to be inclusive. The reason why I say embedded goes along with what I said before, is that sustainability now is spread across the way a business does business. HR need to be at the table and in the discussions for all things sustainable. You can't just have it as a bolt-on. An example of that would be, say, you have a policy to reduce your emissions for staff traveling to work, and you bring in a cycle to work scheme to get people on their bikes and out of their cars. But for example, then facilities department does not put in the infrastructure, the storage for the bikes, or changing facilities for staff. So no matter how many bikes you get people to buy, if the infrastructure is not there to support the staff members coming in by bike, that's never going to be a successful story. Best practice also needs to be comprehensive. The area of workforce that we self-assess against cuts across workforce, it cuts across community. The policies that you offer staff from a healthy working lives point of view, so you want a healthy, active staff group that has repercussions on improving the mental health and the well-being of staff. You want to provide policies that allow staff flexibility in the way they work, that they have abilities to support children, or also if you have staff that are carers, you need to consider all those elements when the policies come. There is also the element of community engagement, and not just from community point of view, in the sense of impacts you have on the community, which you might do as an organization. There's been plenty of evidence of polluters having to pay huge penalties for damage that's done to the community, but also that more holistic point of sustainability. And are you engaging with community perhaps before building an office in an area, or are you bringing in Do you have policies that look at socially deprived areas being able to get work with the organization or long-term unemployed? Sustainable development cuts across all of these areas, and the best way to consider it really is that it's not an additional thing to do. It's not a bolt-on. The experience I've had with HR practitioners when we've looked at the self-assessment on how to develop our plans to do things better is that it's things you already do that you just do them slightly different or slightly better. So it's not extra work, it's just doing what you do better. The prime example I have for that is, say you are sending out a letter for an interview process. Generally you will obviously send them a date and time, a location, but as part of that letter, would you give them guidance on how to get to your offices or to the venue in the greenest possible way? So again, it's not extra work, it's just doing it slightly different. Lastly, inclusive. Best practice needs to be inclusive in the sense that it can't just be for, say, the chief executive's team or the senior managers, or for one department and not the other. For best practice to really work and be successful from a sustainable point of view, all members of staff, as long as their job roles are part of, their job roles allow them to be flexible, should be able to, say, have teleconferencing facilities, or maybe that flexible ways of working where you work from home, or you maybe go and base yourself at a separate office. So that has to be made available to all staff, and consistently so, in order for those policies and that best practice to really work well. Those three elements are ultimately important, and they're interjoined in an organization. You need to have the vision and leadership from the top, and not just the top, but it needs to cut across the senior team and filter down. I've been very lucky in our organization. Our chief executive understood the importance to considering sustainability across everything, not just as a bolt-on. He set environmental and sustainable objectives for each of his direct reports to consider personally and across their business units. He also insisted in, he had to have a car, so he upgraded to a hybrid car, which then in turn helped us get charging points in our facilities. He also brought in sustainability into the business, into the strategic planning process. Historically, we looked at health impact and financial impact when looking at new products and services, and we now look at health, finance, and environmental impact. So that is considered from the beginning. Any new product or service is reviewed and considered. Lastly, you need transparency across what you do. Not just, essentially the information, the data that senior managers generally always love to have for their key performance indicators. How much are we saving? How much are we traveling? How much are we throwing away to landfill? How much energy are we saving? Without that raw data and that information shared not just to the senior team, but also to all the staff members through dashboards or on your intranet or through screens and receptions of places of work, to give people the information to say, oh yeah, we actually are doing better, we've saved so much money, or oh look, the offices in the West is not recycling as well as with the offices in the East. So it adds a bit of competition, and it adds that we're all in it together mentality. Because the minute you say for the chief exec, we're going to do this, I guarantee you most staff will be like, yeah, okay, I've got a job to do. But if it becomes part of the way we do things, we're here to drive environmental impact, make things better from the top down. Events that you run, you're told how to get there sustainably. The websites that you have for your stakeholders, for your customers, show that you are looking at resource efficiency, that you're looking across the supply chain, that you're building in resilience, that you're using less energy, that you provide flexible working. That will then essentially bring tie it all in for the culture of the organization. You can tell staff to recycle and to turn things off till the cows come home, but unless you start to show them the information, show them the data, be transparent in the sense of, this is the performance of the building, this is how we are doing as an organization. This matters across the way we do things, and it's not just because we are telling you to do so, it's because it links in with being a better corporate citizen, be it a better place to work. Without that information, to be able to engage in the conversation, staff will be more cynical, they won't have that buy-in, and you just won't be successful in moving and transitioning to a sustainable organization. The information is there to open the conversations with staff, but if you don't provide the ability to empower them and give them the ability to kind of mobilize and have information stalls at reception or support the local building user groups, perhaps doing waste audits or active travel days or community engagement events, essentially you'll fall down at hurdles. You need the support from the top, certainly, but ideally the engagement from the staff from the bottom up, from the top down, with robust information supporting it, but also lastly having simple, clear messages dripped out through communication channels, through internet, through HR newsletters, etc. That's important as well, to keep the message simple. From our point of view, obviously being public sector, it's about being efficient and saving taxpayers' money so that can be focused to towards frontline staff. It could be costly, and you will always have that balancing act, especially in the public sector. Why are we going to spend more money on an energy system when we have to reduce our budgets by X amount? But it's about looking at the long-term benefits to reducing emissions, having that kind of 2035, 2040 vision to an organization to build that resilience about, change is coming, we need to build this into the way we do business now, and stop that short-termism of 2 years or 5 years ahead, where from our point of view it could be a political drive for that party and in power at the moment. Successful organizations will look beyond that and start planning now. To remember that sustainability is not an extra, it's not a bolt-on, that carry-on luggage on your train trip, not plane trip. Sustainability should be considered from the beginning, and so it's not about doing more things. Sometimes it is, but it's about thinking sustainable, thinking green at the start of whatever you do. If you need to travel somewhere, can you take public transport? If you need to buy something, is it is the packaging less? Is it a locally sourced? Where does it come from? It's asking those questions and realizing that everything is connected. John Muir, the famous naturalist, said, you find that I tug at one thing in nature and it's connected to the rest of the world. Something along those lines, not paraphrase, but we are all interconnected. A colleague said to me recently, you're in a journey. You're almost where the health and safety element was 10, 15 years ago. People didn't see that as a necessity, and now it's embedded in the way we do business. So the same goes with sustainability. It's not, oh, I'm going to do this policy, is it green? It's more about thinking that when I am writing this policy or when I am looking to do something, I should already be thinking this is a sustainable way of doing things. Are we, using less resource? Are we behaving sustainably? Is it looking to do good for the community or good for the planet? It's all interconnected in the way we do business, and the key, the thought leaders, the championing organizations out there do that already. If you look at the kind of the Pullmans and the Unilevers and the Marks and Spencers, the Plan A's, it's the way we do business is sustainable. It's not just we have a business, how do we make it sustainable?